Hello everyone, it's your girl Brainy Shanae, and today I'm coming at you with a book review. Now for this particular book, this is a book that I had decided to pick as my featured library book of the week. I had posted it on my TikTok and also on my, booktube as well on shorts. So without further ado, the book that I am talking about is Between Friends and Lovers. This is by Shirlene Obuobi. This book, now this is her second book. Her first book that she had written was On Rotation, which I haven't been able to read just yet, but I plan on doing so, especially after reading this right here. Now this book recently just came out, I think either earlier this month or last month. And this is definitely, I think it's a romance book, but I feel like it's a lot more than that. I could tell you, like, as I was reading this, I felt like I was seeing myself through one of the main characters, which her name is Jo. And I will let you know there are some content warnings within this book that I think you should all be aware of. There is depression and there is suicide. So just be mindful of that when you read this. But this is now, mind you, this is going to be spoilery. I'm gonna let you know right now because this book is so good. Now there are some things that I'm going to leave out, but there are going to be some things that I might spoil you all. So I do apologize in advance. So in this book, we're featuring the main character, Jo, or Josephine. She is a doctor, but she doesn't have her own practice. She did her residency, but out of all that, she is in love with her best friend, who is Ezra, which is this guy right here, Ezra. But it turns out, or it seems, that he doesn't love her in return and that she's mostly in the friend zone. And Ezra ends up dating Ashley, who is Jo's bully, right? And so she was already just hurt and broken by this because he didn't choose her. She's been with him, and for him and supporting him, and he just did not see Jo, and she's live with this. And then out of nowhere, when they go to a party, Jo ends up meeting Malcolm. And he was a photographer, now a romance author. And they end up starting to just talk amongst each other. And Jo, was out of character and decided, like, okay, I'm gonna ask him out on a date. So they go on this date. They start knowing each other a little bit, but even though it's a little bit uncomfortable, but because with things of how Jo grew up and everything, and how no one seemed to want to be with her or love her or choose her, she still has that. And then you also have to deal with Mal, who also has something, that was really heartbreaking for him, is he had a girlfriend and he came home one day and all her stuff was gone. Her name was Portia, and all her stuff was gone. No type of wondering what happened, and he was always there for her, always doing what, everything to be with her and please her, and but obviously that was not enough for Portia, so she left him. So they have dealt with heartbreak time and time again, and then it comes to the point of trusting one another. And what I loved about this book is regarding which is so accurate and is spot on, is that every relationship is not perfect. Relationships are work. They take time. You get to know one another. You get to know everyone's habits. I will say that about myself and my husband. We've been together for about 15 years, since we've been together since high school. But there are habits that that I just don't like that he has, and there are habits I know that he's annoyed about. But but that's the thing. It's give and take, And with this book is just spot on. And with Jo, I think she didn't know she wanted to be in a committed relationship, is because she not only did she not know anybody that loved her, but she didn't know how to love somebody else in return. And then it goes into more depth about her background regarding her relationship with her mother. When Jo was 16, she emancipated from her mother literally at 16, and Jo now in this book, in the present, she is 29 years old, so she hasn't talked to her mom for 13 years. And literally just within this book, she ends up talking to her mother after 13 years in the hospital because her mother experienced a heart attack. And Joe was pretty much saying, like, someone loves me. And, it wasn't you that loved me, but now someone truly loves me. She was having this full-blown conversation with her mother, which I felt like was closure, which I teared up a little bit, because it brings out a lot of things regarding my childhood and what I had experienced, and talks that I've had with family members and how I felt. Some people, they took it and they realized what the wrongs they had done. Some others, they still are in denial. But the fact that Joe had the courage to tell her mother, like, someone loves me, regardless, that wasn't you. And she let her know, like, you didn't love me. But now, there's somebody who truly loves me and has chosen me. Out of all people, they chose me. And like I said, that scene in this book brought me to tears. Now, mind you, there were some times where Joe would go back and forth regarding Mal being with Malcolm or whatever, because she still had these feelings, or not feelings, but there was no closure with Ezra. She had a huge crush on him for ages, and it still bothered her and it hurt her heart. Like, they're still friends, good friends and all, especially with his mom and his family, because they pretty much was helping her out regarding her residency, all her schooling expenses, that couldn't be covered with her scholarship because she only got a partial scholarship. So Ezra was family, but at the same time, she had a huge crush on him, and she felt like she wasn't being seen. And so there was that sense of, like, she needed closure with Ezra before she could even start or begin a relationship with Malcolm. I think that's with a lot of things in life. Like, in order to move on, there has to be closure from the previous situation or relationship. So Joe and Ezra had a conversation, and that's when Ezra was trying to tell her, like, I've always loved you. He was just making excuses. And Joe was like, I truly did love you. I was in love with you. And he heard that key word was. So he's like, okay, so you're not in love with me anymore. Well, I'll wait, yada, yada, yada. And she's like, there was that time where I wanted you to choose me and you didn't. And that's completely fine. We are still friends, which they are. But we had that time of closure. And then that's when Ezra also has a time of closure regarding his situation, especially what happened in school. And that's when he ends up admitting certain things that I think Joe knew, but the fact that Ezra spoke it out of his own mouth, it spoke volumes. I really, really enjoyed this book. This was very heartwarming, gut-wrenching. It was just a lot going on, but in a good way. It expressed so many things of closure, of trying to be heard, of compromising, of listening from people's perspectives and different points of view, which I really enjoyed. And Joe even, like, confessed, like, in order for me to love Malcolm, I have to figure out how to have closure and to also love myself, because throughout her childhood, her childhood bully, she was racist, called her Jungle Joe, and then called her a monkey. And so that also hurt Ezra to her core, because Ezra decided to date her, and I think that above all just broke her. But throughout this entire book, it's all based on, like, social media. She's a huge social media guru when it comes to advice, like medical advice and whatever. Now, mind you, she doesn't have a practice, but she is a doctor, Josephine Boateng. And then you have Malcolm, who is a romance author at that. So there's a lot of things taking place in this book that I find very fun, very fascinating. This is definitely a page turner. You can never get bored reading this. I will let you know, like, when I started reading this book, this is like the first chapter, and it says, surviving as a Black girl in high society is pretty easy as long as you know the rules. 1, arrive with your pedigree at the ready. Your degree from a prestigious university, the smattering of letters behind your name, your association with friends powerful enough to confer you relevance. Announce these clearly enough and often enough that no one asks why you're here, but with enough humility that you're not seen as a threat. And then parentheses, it says anecdotes that begin with when I was in medical school or my dormitory in Cambridge often do the trick. And then it goes on to say, 2, be intentional with your hair. Keep it straight on the days you want to blend in. Dealer's choice on whether you rock a lace front, U-part, or a silk press. Because let's be real, hardly anyone in attendance will know the difference, and only bust out the afro when you want to stand out. Be aware that standing out might not always be in your best interest, and relish the irony that existing in your unaltered self is considered a statement. And then 3, adopt a standard Midwestern accent. Strip your voice of AAVE and go for more Channel 7 news, though you can throw out the occasional BITCH for laughs in select social situations. And most importantly, number 4, never ever make a white woman cry, because white women's tears are salt sowed into a fertile land. The fertile land being your friendships, your peace, your livelihood, and whatever else you may hold dear. The cuter and younger the white woman, the more potent the tears. The more witnesses, especially of the straight male variety, the more devastating the impact. All this to say, I was screwed. And that's when it started to, when we talk about her childhood bully, Ashley Banaki. And that's how the book starts. And so I'm like, okay, this is already talking about how society is, especially when you're a Black woman in the workforce. And you'd be the only Black person. So, I mean, there are things where she was saying what to do and what not to do, even though it sucks that we have to go down that road of what we have to alter ourselves in order to fit into a society, and to be taken seriously in the workforce. But those are valid things that are still happening today in society, regarding Black women and what they experience on a day-to-day basis when they're at work, and their bosses and whatnot. So I do appreciate how it talks about the relevance and how it still occurs to this very day, and how we have to constantly do what we have to do in order to please certain people so that we can either get ahead or just to be seen and for our work to be appreciated. That's really sad that we still have to go through that to this very day. But she was making valid points throughout this book, and that's why also I feel like that's why she never had her own practice. She pretty much was a medical guru on social media. She was giving people a lot of accurate advice. She found a way to make a difference without being in the workplace where it was so restrictive. You know what I mean? So I really, really appreciated this book so much. I think you all will really enjoy this book, and I think you all will have a really good time getting to know Ezra, getting to know Joe, and also getting to know Mal. Each and every one of them, they bring a precious element to this story that I find very fascinating and intriguing. And it definitely kept me reading and just constantly turning the page to know what happens next with each and every one of these characters. So I fell in love with them. I'm looking forward to reading On Rotation. That was one book that I really wanted to read a while ago. But now, after reading this, I'm definitely looking forward to reading it. To getting to know more about the author, Shirlene. She is a Ghanaian American cardiologist, cartoonist, and author who grew up in Chicago, Illinois, Hot Springs, Arkansas, and the Woodlands, Texas. She appeared on Good Morning America to promote her debut novel, On Rotation, and is a regular contributor to the Washington Post. When she isn't in the hospital, she can be found drawing comics, writing on her phone, and talking to everyone who will listen about women's heart health. So yeah, that's really cool. And also, just to remind you, the location that is taking place in this book is Chicago, as you can see the Sears Tower or whatever. So it is also in Chicago as well, if you didn't know, but now you know. But yeah, I rated this a 5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed reading this. This was such an eye-opener. And it makes me think about relationships that I currently have, not only with my husband, but also with my friends and family. But that is it. I really hope you enjoyed this book review. And once again, I really hope you picked this book up. I had borrowed this from my local library. Literally, you do not have to buy this book. If you have a library card, or if you don't have a library card, go to your local library and get one, and just borrow some books. Okay, just go ahead and borrow them. You don't have to break the bank. Definitely go to your local library, because yeah, this was a great read, to the point where maybe one day I will have my own actual copy, my own personal copy. But I'm just so happy that I'm supporting my local library as well on top of that. So anyways, once again, I really hope you enjoyed this book review. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that bell to be notified when I upload more videos in the future. But once again, thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you are staying healthy and staying safe, and I will catch y'all next time. Bye everyone.